Daniel is the last book of the major prophets. This book can be divided evenly into two sections. The first 6 chapters are written as a narrative, showing some key events that happened during Daniel's life. The last 6 chapters are what's called apocalyptic literature. These are prophetic dreams and visions Daniel received of the future and symbolic imagery. For this video, we will briefly look at key events in the narrative section, followed by the overall purpose of the apocalyptic chapters, and then we will see what this tells us about God and how it points us to Jesus. This book begins by God sovereignly giving Judah over to the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. So the people of Israel were carried off into exile in a foreign land. King Nebuchadnezzar wanted to find the best of the best from the people of Israel and train them to serve him in the king's palace. Among those chosen were Daniel and 3 of his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. These 4 young Jews would be taught the language and literature of Babylon. They would now experience life as exiles in a foreign land and would have to learn how to remain faithful to God while living in a godless society. Not long after this, King Nebuchadnezzar would have a dream that would greatly distress him. He would search his whole kingdom for someone to tell him his dream and its interpretation. The best of his magicians, sorcerers, and enchanters were unable to do so, even at the threat of death. So Daniel prayed to God, and God revealed the dream to Daniel. This dream was of a statue representing 4 kingdoms, one being Babylon and the 3 to rise up in the future in succession. Finally, with a stone coming in to shatter those kingdoms to nothing. Daniel makes it clear that it was God who revealed this dream and its interpretation to him. In Daniel 3, we see the infamous story of Daniel's 3 friends in the fiery furnace. In this chapter, Nebuchadnezzar sets up a statue and commands everyone to worship it. Of course, Daniel's 3 friends couldn't do that. Even at the threat of death, they could not defy the one true God by bowing down to this false idol. In fury, Nebuchadnezzar throws them into a fiery furnace, but God miraculously rescues them as a 4th man appears in the fire with them. Several years later, Daniel himself would experience a similar situation. In this case, prayer was made illegal, but Daniel, in obedience to God, simply kept praying as he had before. Daniel worked faithfully for godless kings for years, but he could not disobey God to conform to the ways of a wicked, godless society, even if it cost him his life. In this case, however, when he was thrown into a den of lions to be killed, God miraculously kept the lions from harming him. The last half of Daniel is full of dreams and visions that God gives to Daniel regarding future events. These future events are shown to Daniel using symbolic imagery, much like Nebuchadnezzar's dream had been, with God revealing to Daniel the interpretation. In fact, the dream and visions God gave to Daniel in chapter 7 appear to be the same revelation he had given to Nebuchadnezzar in chapter 2, except with different imagery. The current kingdom of Babylon and the 3 future empires of Persia, followed by Greece, and finally Rome, are depicted as rabid, vile animals lusting for power. Through these dreams and visions, God showed Daniel that things would get worse and worse as kings and kingdoms would rise up more evil than the last, some even blaspheming God and persecuting his people. But ultimately, God was in control of all of it and would one day bring all evil to an end and establish his own kingdom to rule forever. Through the book of Daniel, God's sovereignty is made abundantly clear. No matter how bad things get, he is in control of all of human history. The book of Daniel foretells the swift rise of Alexander the Great 217 years in advance, the rise of the Roman Empire over 400 years in advance, and even the sacrifice of Jesus 490 years in advance. In fact, the prophecies in Daniel are so accurate that what could explain such accurate future predictions except the sovereign God who says in Isaiah, "Remember the former things of old, for I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times things not yet done, saying, My counsel shall stand and I will accomplish all my purpose." And not only that, but we find Jesus throughout the book of Daniel, as the 4th man in the fiery furnace, The stone in Nebuchadnezzar's dream that will demolish all earthly kingdoms and establish his own eternal kingdom. The Son of Man in Daniel 7, who will be given everlasting dominion and glory over all peoples, nations, and languages. And the one predicted 490 years beforehand, who would put an end to sin and to atone for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness. With a God like this, it's no wonder Daniel and his friends and God's people throughout all time can have the courage to live for him regardless of how intense the opposition and how increasingly godless and wicked the world becomes. We have a God who is sovereignly in control of it all, who has saved us through the life, death, and resurrection of his Son, and who will establish his kingdom forever.